In both Sweden and Norway, there are folklore stories about Odin and Thor. These two gods seems to be very popular during the Viking Age. Both are well described in the Icelandic tales, and there are numerous other sources that point toward both of these gods being worshipped by the late Iron Age people, the people that we usually call Vikings. They didn't stop being mentioned, however. They both lived on strongly in people's minds, and both went through a rather fascinating transformation from a god to a folklore being. Because people stopped to worship them as they used to, but the names and their purpose and stories lived on, just in another format. Thor is mostly mentioned and very seldom seen in these stories. He is mostly a being that is used as a sort of a Noah name for thunder and lightning. If you wonder what a Noah name is, you can watch my other video that you will find in the description, up in the corner or in the description below. I hear that Thor is doing his journey is a common saying that is still used up here. I still use it. In some other stories, though, there has been things called Torsviggar, Thor's flashes, or Goviggar, probably a dialect word for God's flashes. People found strange stones in their fields while plowing, and these stones were very well kept and treasured, and the people's imaginations and traditions loaded them with magic. It has been said in some stories around these stones that they were petrified flashes from when Thor hunted for trolls. There's a person named Anton, born 1862, that told that just north of the little Swedish town Motala, there was a tradition when he was young that when they were going to burn down a wooded area to prepare the land for farming, they carried their govig around the area, and they did this to prevent the fire from spreading more than it should. Slash and burn agriculture has been very common up here in Sweden, where you use fire under a controlled form to prepare the land to be used for growing crops on it. Anton was not sure if his parents really believed in the old gods, maybe not even their parents, but he said that somewhere in the old days they have worshipped the stones as some kind of godly things, and that he had heard the name Thor mentioned when people talked about the stones. This indicates that even though the stones was considered loaded with magic, the belief was so far back in time that people just remember that at one point these might have been gods. But now it was put together with all the other kind of magical beings that people feared more than worshipped. But that this was something that the church didn't like with all this folk magic is pointed out by Anton. He said that people usually did this kind of things in secret and not in the open. Odin has, on the other hand, appeared even more in the folklore stories, even with his name. There is a common theme called the wild hunt that you can find in numerous different European folklore. Different beings are attached to this wild hunt. Sometimes it is old gods like Odin, sometimes it is the ghost of a powerful old hero from the legends and myth of the place. Up here in Scandinavia we see Odin usually keeping his name, but sometimes he isn't described as a god. He is described as an old warrior from an ancient time that comes from some kind of burial mound that is near the place where the story appears. So just because he has the name Odin doesn't mean that each of all the people that continue to tell the stories about him remembered that he once was a god. The wild hunt seems to have been certain nights, usually those that was considered really dangerous, like the Lucia night, Christmas Eve or Midsummer's Eve. If you dared to go out during the night, you could hear a loud banging and dogs that bark and hunted up high in the sky. That was the wild hunt, and you should never go near it. That might get you killed. As mentioned in my video about Skogsrået, the mistress of the forest, a very common theme was that he was out hunting for her. It seems Odin has a very special hatred for the mistress of the forest, but why isn't really told. In one of the stories about the wild hunt, it is told that Odin is a hunter from older times, and he was out hunting on a Sunday, and As a punishment, he was cursed forever and ever until the world ended to hunt for the skogsrå. Usually the stories about the wild hunt and Odin is told about how someone is out during one of these special nights, and suddenly they see a naked woman running past them, and then meets the hunter. One of them is from a place called Hemsjö in Västergötland. A woman called Sophie was working at an inn in Töllesjö. When she was walking home to see her family one Christmas Eve, she suddenly heard a huge noise and rumble in the forest. There was hunters' pipes and dogs barking, and then came an old lady running for her life. She told Sophie to not tell anyone that Sophie had seen her. Just a moment after, a rider came by and he asked Sophie if Sophie had seen anyone passing by. Sophie didn't dare to tell the rider anything else but the truth. The rider then rode off again, and soon there was a shot going off, so the thundering echoed through the forest. When the hunter came back out of the forest, he had the old woman over the horse's back behind him. "It was your pure luck that you answered me truthfully," said the hunter, "or else you would have been on this horse instead of her." A woman in the northern part of Sweden managed to get away with her lying. The story goes like this. Grandma told about how a woman living in Bodsjö was out searching for her cow. It was night and flashes came from the sky. Suddenly, there was a woman running past her, and she begged the woman searching for her cows not to tell anyone that she had seen her. Just a moment after, a man came riding, and he asked the woman, "Have you seen anyone?" The woman said no, and he took off again. But just after a moment, he came back, and then he had a poor woman after the horse, bound by her own braids. When the rider came past the woman searching for her cows, he said to her that if she had answered truthfully, she would not have had to seen that. Not just women met Odin on his hunt, and it wasn't always one of those dangerous nights either. A farmer in Thors in Småland was out hunting an early Thursday morning, and then he met King Odin. Odin had 2 dogs that was connected to each other, and he was riding on a big horse. On the horse he had a skogsrå that he had shot, and the breast of the skogsrå was so long that they reached her down to her stomach. The dogs was running next to him, but he said to the farmer not to hunt on Thursdays, because that was Odin's hunting day. This was some of the stories around Odin, once a mighty god, later reduced to a folklore being, but still very powerful and dangerous. I hope you enjoy these stories, and I am right now planning on making shorter videos with translation of more of the Swedish folklore. Do you have a favorite being that you want to hear more about? Please tell me in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.